you have white pieces of paper on your tables. It's a little Radio City Rockette pop quiz. So there's some pens on your tables too, so please feel free to fill those out while I talk. I won't feel offended at all. And then at the end, we'll kind of review that, and if you have any questions, we can review it at that time, but it's kind of a good conversation starter. I'm not going to grade them or anything, so that's kind of fun. Well, thank you, Lenny, for having me tonight. I do have to confess that when Lenny asked me to come speak back in April, my immediate answer wanted to be no. I'm a dancer for a reason. I like to move and dance, and speaking is kind of not in my wheelhouse, but I did say yes to Lenny. After all, he was one of my favorite teachers. And I'm honored that he would even think of me, so thank you for considering me tonight and being interested in what I have to say. Another reason why I ultimately said yes about tonight is because I tell my students that they need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And if they're not dancing outside of their box, if they're not doing things they've never done before, then they just become stagnant and then we don't grow. So I am here and I am uncomfortable and I am hopefully growing tonight. And I will be a better person because of it, and I hope my dancers do the same. I'd like to introduce a couple of very important people that are here with me tonight. This is my husband, Eric Rudiker. Can you give him a wave? Eric is not from Fairmont. He grew up in the North Carolina area. He is also in the entertainment industry, however. We met on a show called 42nd Street. We were touring the US and Japan at the time. He is not a dancer, despite what you may see here. He specializes in lighting and projections and special effects. So he's worked with Britney Spears in Las Vegas. He worked for Cirque du Soleil for 12 years. He started his first show in Florida, and then we moved to Las Vegas, where he opened the Beatles show, and then Michael Jackson won. So if you have any questions for him about the industry as far as lighting and all of that goes, I'm sure he would love to chat with you about that. My mother, Kathy, is also here. My mom, Kathy, started Kathy's School of Dance actually several years ago, and she has probably taught some of you and some of your kids and grandchildren. So she's literally taught thousands of people in this area and also northern Iowa. It's because of her dedication and her love for dance and kids that I'm even here right now to speak with you and all the experiences that I've had in my life. So thank you, Mom. All right, so let's get started. I am Nita Borchardt. I am a native of Fairmont, born and raised. My parents are Glenn Borchardt of Welcome and Kathy of Fairmont. My siblings are Tiffany and Greg Borchardt. They both live in Northern California. My grandparents are Harold and Julia Borchardt of Welcome, and Buzz and Dolores Wickard of Fairmont. I attended Bud School, the old Bud School, St. John Meany, the middle school, which is now the elementary school, and I graduated from Fairmont High School. After high school, I moved to Oklahoma City. I attended Oklahoma City University. Upon graduation, I danced on Royal Caribbean cruise lines. I moved to New York City for 5 years. Then I toured the United States and Japan with Eric and our show. We moved to Orlando for 1 year, and then I ended up with Eric in Las Vegas for 10 years before we moved back to Fairmont in 2015. So you may be wondering why I moved around so much. Well, what brought me back to Fairmont after 20 years as well? And the simple answer to that would be dance and family. I started dancing at the age of 2. I was actually, my mom danced with me inside of her, so I like to say I started dancing before I was even born. My mom, Kathy, as you know, started her dance company in the basement of our homes, which was very interesting. I had a unique upbringing, having a mother as a dance teacher, which was really neat, and a studio in our house. My house was very loud and it was very busy. There was a lot of music and chatter and tap dancing and strangers coming in and out of my house. But that was normal for us. I was a shy child, and actually I still consider myself to be shy today. However, learning to dance, I realized that I could express myself without words, and that was very liberating for me. I felt like I could be myself, and dance gave me the confidence to do that. I learned tap, jazz, ballet, point, lyrical, and tumbling from my mom, which is really cool and unique. I danced all through high school. I assisted my mom at the dance studio, and I also attended several professional dance conventions in Minneapolis with my mom and with her students as well. I competed with my sister and a couple other girls in high school as well. So my senior year of high school at Fairmont High came around, and it was time to make a decision as to what I was going to do with the rest of my life. No pressure there. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I figured that accounting would probably be a good job. So I told my dad one night that I was going to be an accountant, and he chuckled a little bit. No offense to anyone that is an accountant, it's just not in my personality to sit still for more than 5 minutes, and my dad knew that, so he kind of was a little shocked when I said that. Then he finally looked at me and he said, well, what do you love to do? And I said, well, I love to dance. And he said, well, do that, as if it was the easiest thing in the world to do. Of course, how do I even do that? I didn't know any professional dancers. I didn't know anything about the industry. Can I even pay my bills dancing? I wasn't quite sure. Years later, some of my friends that were in college, their parents discouraged them from dancing because it was just a hobby and something fun that you did, and you got a real job and had a 401k and all of that good stuff. Meanwhile, my parents said, go for it, just do it. I said, okay, all right. Well, my mom had met a professional ballerina, Jo Rowan, at one of our dance conventions in Minneapolis, and she was the dean of students at the dance department at Oklahoma City University. She had shared with my mom one summer that they have a great musical theater program in Oklahoma City, and that there are a lot of connections that are made through their school. So my mom and I decided that I would audition for Oklahoma City University, and the results of that audition would kind of determine whether or not I would move on to dance as an adult. So we packed up our bags and we headed to Oklahoma City. The audition process was really long, and a portion of the audition was to do a solo. Well, my mom, she really wanted to wow the judges, so she gave me a really hard tap routine to do, and she had me do an aerial cartwheel in my tap shoes. So for those of you that aren't quite sure what an aerial cartwheel is, it's a cartwheel without your hands. So there I did it, on stage in front of hundreds of people and judges and teachers, and I was terrified. But I did it. Thanks, Mom. She always knew I had more potential than I think I thought I did. So it was really cool that she's kind of pushed me all these years to do things that I didn't think that I could do. Well, I never thought in a million years that I would make it into Oklahoma City University. It was dubbed the Rockette Factory because there were so many graduates that had come out of their program and had danced professionally with the Rockettes. But lo and behold, I was accepted. So I was a little shocked, but happy. So I spent 4 years in Oklahoma City studying tap, ballet, jazz, musical theater, and so much more. I graduated with a Bachelor of Performance Arts degree in dance. Education there was pivotal in my quest to dance professionally, and it provided me with so many invaluable tools. Upon graduation in 1999, I auditioned for the role of Caribbean Cruise Lines, and I was very lucky to be hired right out of college. I danced with the Wave Review dancers on the Majesty of the Seas. I'm pretty sure that cruise ship is not in existence anymore. But we toured the Caribbean islands, we toured many cities in Mexico and Puerto Rico, and I was on the cruise ship for 9 months dancing. I met people from all over the world, from all different departments on the cruise ship, and some of my best friends as well. So as a professional dancer, there are certain hubs that you can go to dance professionally. Las Vegas is one, Chicago, Florida, and New York City. Well, with my musical theater training at Oklahoma City University, the natural choice for me was New York City. So I packed up my bags again and headed for the Big Apple. Actually, I went to Queens, not Manhattan. So life as a dancer, I think sometimes comes across kind of glamorous. We're on stage with pretty costumes on and dancing and doing our thing, but the truth of the matter is it's pretty hard life. Most dancers have night jobs where they're either hostessing or waiting tables or bartending, so that we have the days free for us to audition, and to take dance classes. So when I lived in New York, I had 3 jobs. I was bartending at night, taking the Amtrak train to Connecticut to teach dance, and then I was also working at Radio City Music Hall. Well, I did go to a lot of auditions during the day, probably more than I would like to remember, actually. At one particular audition, we walked into the room, they pointed to 5 people and said, "You can stay," and everybody else could go. We didn't even get to dance, but I was thankful that I didn't spend all day there if they didn't want me in the first place. So it was kind of interesting. I did want to dance in as many shows as possible, but there was one dance show that trumped the rest, and that was Dancing with the Radio City Rockettes at the historic music hall in Manhattan. It had been a dream of mine for years. My mom, Kathy, had taken me to see the Rockettes at the Northrop Auditorium at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis years earlier. They were touring through Minnesota, and we went and saw the show. At the end of the show, I turned towards my mom and I said, "I want to do that someday." Well, never in a million years did I think that I would actually be dancing with the Radio City Rockettes. It became my reality and my life and my world. When the annual audition came up in New York City, I was there along with hundreds and hundreds of other girls. We were literally wrapped around the streets of Radio City Music Hall waiting to get into the theater to audition. After waiting in line for literally hours, we were finally escorted through the stage door, and we were led to the historic large rehearsal hall. I felt like I was dreaming, but I had to shake it off because I had a job to do that day. I had one shot to audition for the Radio City Rockettes. As the day progressed, we were taught a lot of choreography. It was very specific and very grueling, and with every 8 counts that we learned, they eliminated more and more girls. I held my breath through every round of auditions that day. Well, the good Lord was with me, as He is every day, because at the end of the day, I was still standing. Out of hundreds of dancers that were in attendance that day, there were only 20 of us that were still there. I was certain that they would hand me my contract, I would sign it, and get to work. But that was not the case. We were told to come back 2 weeks later to audition again. We would be singing and dancing this time. Well, that was the longest 2 weeks of my life. I couldn't wait for it to come. But when it came, we auditioned again, and we danced and sang more. More cuts were made, and more girls were sent home. I was getting to the end, and I was really nerve-wracked because I was so close to the end. But I just kept remembering what my dad, Glenn, had told me for years: keep your eye on the prize. And so I did. By the end of the day, there was myself and 8 other girls who had made it through all of the auditions. I couldn't believe it. Here I am, small-town girl from Fairmont, Minnesota, standing at the historical Radio City Music Hall and being told that I got the job. I am a Radio City Rockette, and my dream had come true. Frank Sinatra said it best: if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. So it was a good day for me. So my 9-year journey with the Radio City Rockettes began. We went through rigorous training, and we call it our Rockette Boot Camp, if that gives you any indication of how difficult it is. We rehearse for 6 days a week, 7 hours a day. Our rehearsals are vigorous and intimidating and very serious. Our rehearsals were intense, and there was a lot of science and specifications to everything that we did. I learned that when you are told to go to the line, there is so much more to that. We were taught that we can toe the line, we can heel the line, we can arch the line with our foot, or we can put the balls of our feet on the line. So all of those little increments really made a big deal. I also learned that the Rockettes don't just do their high famous kicks. There's also flick kicks and straight kicks and piano kicks. So I learned a lot of things very quickly. Our director and our dance captain, they were really tough on us, and there was no room for error. Our movements, our transitions, and our consistency, along with our work ethic, was to be perfect every day. During rehearsals, I remember dancing all day. I would wake up in the morning, and I would literally have to roll out of bed and crawl to the bathroom because my feet and my legs were so swollen and so sore. But it was worth it. Can't do that anymore, but back then I could. We rehearsed for 2.5 months leading up to our shows. We performed 6 days a week, anywhere from 2 to 5 shows a day, each show being 90 minutes long. On long show days, we would only have 30 minutes in between our shows. Currently, the Rockettes perform exclusively in New York City at Radio City Music Hall. There are two casts of girls, the blue cast that performs in the morning, and the gold cast that performs at night. I am not a morning person, so I was in the gold cast. When I was performing with the Rockettes, however, they did have what was called Christmas Across America, which is basically a version of the Christmas show, but in outside venues. So some of you may have seen the Rockettes in cities like Branson and Detroit and Nashville. And then our cities became split, so we did 2 cities for one run of the show. For example, I was in Seattle and Phoenix, and then Minneapolis and Dallas. So they started to split it up a little bit as well. Madison Square Garden owned the Radio City Rockettes until Cablevision bought us out. And then they introduced the arena tour, which some of you, I think, saw us in Minneapolis years ago. So we would go into hockey arenas and load the show in, all of our staging and our costumes and our lighting and all of our equipment, and have shows in one city for 3 or 4 days, and then we would load back out and head to the next city. So we did that as well for a couple of years. With my 9 years with the Radio City Rockettes, I was fortunate enough to do Christmas Across America, the arena tours, and dancing at Radio City Music Hall. In addition to that, I did perform in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, which was one of the highlights of my life. We did a lot of TV and radio shows as well. As Lenny said, I did the Today Show with Meredith Vieira. The Star Tribune, my legs are up here with another dancer. We toured through Minneapolis years ago, and that's my pride and joy, because as a kid, growing up knowing the Star Tribune was really cool, so that was a highlight of my career as well. I also did a segment on Care 11, which was a big deal for me as a Minnesotan as well, because I grew up watching Care 11, so that was really fun too. After dancing professionally for 12 years, 9 of which were with the Radio City Rockettes, my husband Eric and I, we decided that it was time to start a family. So I hung up my performance dance shoes, and my daughter McKenna was born in 2010, followed by my second daughter Maureen in 2012, and they were both born in Las Vegas. Well, you may be wondering how we got back to Fairmont after all of these years. Well, during one of my parents' visits to Las Vegas, my mom Kathy mentioned that after over 45 years of owning Worker Dance Company, that she was a little tired and she kind of wanted to take a step back a little bit. So she and my dad Glenn proposed that Eric and I move back to Fairmont and I take over the family business. Well, my immediate answer was once again no. So, and you're not the only one I immediately want to say no to. But when my parents asked me that, I just wasn't sure. I hadn't lived in a small town in 20 years, and I wasn't sure if it's something that we wanted for our family. But as many of you know, once you have children, things change, and they become your focus. So raising our kids in the chaos of Las Vegas, as opposed to a small town with great family values and great people, we decided that Minnesota would be our new home. So in 2015, we moved to Fairmont. We welcomed our third child, Easton, in 2016. And then in 2019, literally months before the pandemic, I purchased Worker Dance Company from Kathy. So we did a lot of online classes that year. We had moved from Kathy's basement, where our studio originated, to the mall. We were there for 2 years, and now we've been downtown on Downtown Plaza for 3 years. We're going in our 3rd season down here, and we love it down here. It's been awesome. Moving to Fairmont has provided me with the opportunity to continue dancing, and to also share my love and my knowledge of dance with the next generation. In addition to that, I'm able to continue the legacy that my mom has worked so hard to build with Worker Dance Company. So Lenny had asked me a couple questions about my connection to Fairmont and my experiences here and how my future kind of came from Fairmont and what influence it had on my life. The first question he asked me is, were there people or family members that were influential in your life? There are many, but I have to whittle it down to 2 very important people, and that would be my mom, Kathy, and my dad, Glenn. My mom taught me everything that I needed to know about dance to get me into OCU that kind of ricocheted me in the right direction. She taught me not only that, but she taught me hard work. She taught me that there are no excuses. She taught me to be respectful and to be gracious at all times. And And she always believed that I could do more than I thought that I could. And that's what makes her a really good dance teacher, so thank you, Mom. My dad, Glenn, who is no longer with us, he always took so much pride in my mom and her being a dance teacher, and also me dancing professionally. He was always so proud of everything that I did. He especially taught me how to be humble, how to work really, really hard, and stay focused on my goals. Lenny had also asked me how growing up in Fairmont influenced the direction of my life and how it helped me to be where I am today. And I think one of the best things about growing up in Fairmont is that you can do so many things. As a dancer, you have to be versatile, you have to be able to do lots of different things. When I worked on the cruise ship, they needed somebody to roller skate, and I was there, I'm going to do it. So I think being in this community has been great for me in that way. I participated in track, I participated in cross country, and tennis, and marching band, and piano. I think sometimes with kids in bigger cities, they have to choose a lane and stay in that lane, but I think Fairmont offers so much more than that. And I'm seeing that with my kids too. They're able to do sports, and band, and dance, and all of these things that make them well-rounded individuals, and I think that's really cool. The Red Rock Center here has been great. My kids have participated in your theater workshop a couple summers ago, and some of the artistic things that are going on here I think are also really great. The library has a lot of great things. The Fairmont Opera House is also providing opportunities for our kids to see professionals come through the doors. And also the theater programs they have for kids. My kids have done that and they absolutely love that. So I like to see that we're able to offer that to our kids in our community as well. At Borchardt Dance Company, we're bringing in professional dancers from out of state and out of town and introducing them to new people and new things. We have a dance competition group that we're going on our 3rd year, and we're also able to offer those kids opportunities to perform more and to be exposed to other dancing professionals. So Eric and I are very happy to be here. Thank you so much for listening to me chat tonight, and also for your support of Borchardt Dance Company. My mom, like I said earlier, has been a staple of our community for years. And she wouldn't be here without her hard work and passion, but also the support of our community. So thank you so much for supporting her and continuing to support me and taking over for her. All right, well, we will go ahead and grab this. Did anybody fill out their quiz? Anybody think they got 100? No. You might be surprised. All right, so we'll go through this really quick, and then if you have any questions for me, I can answer those. All right, number 1, Russell Markert founded the Rockettes in what year? Does anybody want to take a guess? 1932. Number 2, the Rockettes were originally named the Missouri Rockets. True or false? True. True. Yep, started in Missouri. How many Rockettes are on stage at one time in the New York City cast? Any guesses? 36. Cha-ching, ching, yes. 2 numbers that have been in the show since the beginning of the Radio City Christmas Spectacular are the Parade of the Wooden Soldiers and the Living Nativity. True or false? True, yes. The Living Nativity, we reenact the birth of Jesus Christ, and it is still on stage. Can you believe it? With the times we're living in right now, it's amazing. We'll just keep praying for that. All right, number 5. There is one cast of Rockettes in New York City. Not that I doubted that you would be. Number 6. The Rockettes must be between the height of 5'5" and 5'10". That is true, yes. They've lowered the height. When I was dancing, the minimum height was 5'6.5". So they've lowered it, over time. Number 7, the Radio City Rockettes are known for their high kicks. The Radio City Rockettes kick as many as 1,500 kicks in a 5-show day. That is true, yes. That's why we're so tired all the time. Number 9, the Radio City Christmas Spectacular performs up to 6 shows a day. True. Yes, in New York City, yes, there's up to 6 shows a day. And number 10, Radio City Music Hall has how many seats? 6,000. There's 6,000 seats at Radio City. So, yes, I'm not nervous doing that, but I was nervous doing this tonight. Imagine that. Well, thank you so much for listening to me, and Lenny, thank you again for asking me. Any questions? Yes, sorry. Yes.
When you were a Rockette, with the directors, the producers that directed you, did you have a lot of different ones? Did that affect your performance?
We did not have a lot of different directors. At the time, with our Christmas Across America show and our show in New York, there was only 2 directors.
Okay.
So.
I was curious if that changed, if it made any difference.
Not really. They're pretty consistent with their directors, and assistant directors are pretty consistent as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Anybody else? Yes.
Well, you said there's different kinds of auditions. What would be kind of a typical audition in New York for one of those shows?
Well, it kind of depends on what you're auditioning for. For 42nd Street, for example, it's a very tap-heavy show. So the first thing that we would do for that particular audition was we would learn a tap number, and we would kind of add on to that, and then they would make cuts from that. And then it's also a singing show, so there would be a singing portion of the audition as well. So. Any other questions? Lenny?
What would you say is the most unique experience you had?
With the Rockettes or just? Unique experience. Oh geez. What? I think the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, because it is such a staple in all of our lives, returning on the parade and seeing the Rockettes outside of the Macy's, stores. So that was really cool. I'm not a crier, like I'm not very emotional, but I cried that day on the streets of New York because it was just really cool. So, yes.
Curious, the rigor of making it.
Yes.
Once any girl goes that far, any woman, do they stick? Were there some that actually hold it?
Yes. Yeah, so with the Radio City Rockettes, we are not guaranteed our job every year, so we have to re-audition every single year. Yes, it is. So there were some girls that would just do 1 year with the Rockettes. There were some that would just do 4. I was lucky enough to do 9. Some girls have been dancing with the Rockettes for 20 years. Some of my friends are still there. So it kind of depends. But yeah, we do have to audition every year, so that kind of makes a difference in people's lives too. So
There's a certain age limit that you either start or end.
18. So you have to start. You have to at least be 18, but there's no limit on the age. Just if you can still do the work, they still take you. But the life of a dancer isn't quite as long as we hope it would be. So yes.
Did you ever get a specific performance for the president or somebody at the White House?
We did not, but Bill Clinton did come to one of our shows in New York City one day. So yeah, I hoped he was in the audience, but.
So backing up to your time on the cruise ship, did you have any just really wild, funny instances that were happening, I'm sure?
Oh, well, none that I can talk about tonight. I'll tell you later. But I liked that we only danced 2 days a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the rest of the time we had to do whatever we wanted. Of course, as you know, I couldn't sit still, so I got an extra job working at the excursion desk, because I like to be busy. So we went on excursions all the time, working on, at that excursion desk. We got a lot of perks with that, so that was really cool. We got to experience a lot of fun stuff. So, yeah, and dancers on the cruise ship, we get some perks. We get to go up and mingle with the guests and things like that, where some other workers on the cruise ship are not allowed to do those things. So we got some added perks there. That was fun. Okay. Well, thank you so much, you guys. Thanks for being here.
check your place card. The first one is for the business book that isn't here yet, but you'll get a voucher for it. And if you take a look, it should be a little bird or a little yellow chicken, a baby chick. Oh, right over there. The second one will be a smiley face, a sunny smiley face. Okay, we got a few people that have those. You'll get a calendar.